All right, everybody, Pot of Gold, welcome back. I'm Brett. I'm here with Mike. Shout out to Grant, able to make it into the virtual studio today. Almost had Christmas tree issues. We had an elaborate ruse, an elaborate plan of talking about the Grant being in the portal, taking resumes for new interns and producers, and he just pops in, and then he just pops in, and here he is. Look, I'm Brett. I'm here with Mike. Grant's here. Hit us up on Twitter at potofgold, potofgold@gmail.com, at goldmike. Join in if you're listening on podcast. Thank you. Join in on the YouTube live stream if you ever want to pop in with some questions. We get some people active in the DMs and in the emails and stuff. But if you want to do it live, hop on in. Where we start, Mike?
Forget the Saints game. That's a shitty game. I'm not even watching it, but just scrolling through Twitter, I think everybody's just bailing on this game anyway. So hop in here. That's what you need.
Yeah, well, yeah. Whenever you listen to this tomorrow, hop in here.
Hop in here, dude. Watch this replay. Yeah, dude. Boutte's back.
Boutte's back.
Boutte is back.
I think. Yeah, let's give a few of the people a couple minutes here to hop in. Grant, how was your vacation? Give me 30 seconds on the vacay.
It was great. Played 2 great rounds of golf, one in Temecula, California, and one in Hawaii. The one in Hawaii is a top 75 course in the country.
Still never been to Pinehurst.
Never
been to Pinehurst.
We'll never go to Pinehurst.
Yeah, it was great. Great trip. Saw Mickey Mouse, Minnie Mouse. It was a Disney resort, so that was great. I've been wanting to see them for a while. Saw Moana. You know, she's very gorgeous in person. It was an actual real person. It wasn't a
What
costume.
movie is she from?
Moana.
For those that don't have children.
Is that the
name of it?
Moana.
Marijuana.
I only know this because of the kids that were there, but
we jammed to Moana songs.
But there was a water slide, lazy river. It was great. It was.
Is that like a spinoff from like Encanto?
No.
Okay.
I think The Rock's in there. Yeah, I think The Rock is the.
What is he not in? Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. About to be the Oval Office.
One of the coolest things was seeing Pearl Harbor. So we went and visited Pearl Harbor.
Love that movie.
The Arizona and the Arizona Memorial. Nice.
Fun fact: Pearl Harbor never happened.
No, I don't think so, dude. We're just gonna get booted off of YouTube. The 2 people that have trickled into the chat so far are gonna just absolutely just report us.
Did you say Pearl Harbor didn't happen, you commie?
Oh, we do need a down goes LSU as the title.
LSU up top.
Is that what we used last time?
I think that was
a repeat title.
Yeah. Oh God,
I don't know if it would be like Boutte's back.
Let's do Boutte back. Boutte back. Back that Boutte. Back that.
Do you want to talk about the
Georgia
SEC championship game and then go into the events with Boutte and possibly Mekhi Gardner and some others?
Yeah, where did you see the Gardner news? Did that just pop?
I mean, the only source of information, tigerdroppings.com.
Nice. That's enormous.
Oh no. Is it gone? No, it says Mekhi Gardner coming back, just posted, need a ring.
Jesus. That's amazing.
That's huge.
That's a domino, dude. Kayshon Boutte. Like, I know we're going to get in the SEC championship game here, but the fact that Kayshon Boutte is the one that's going to turn this tide of like, nope, we're going to stick around to get a ring. I never would have called it that Kayshon would be that guy. Forgive me, Kayshon, for ever doubting you. You are the man. I owe you one. I owe you one. I don't owe you as much as Gordon's paying you, but I owe you. That's all I'm going to say here. It's a new world. And maybe that's what NIL, if you can form it that way where it's like, dude, you can go 3rd round or you can stick around here. We can pay you an ass ton of money to come back and raise your stock and then go back in the 1st round where you should have been in a big old passing game, which that's the elephant in the room we might start discussing as well. I think there might be a little bit of a quarterback situation that we're going to talk about. SEC game. I know it's a hot topic, but also with some of these receivers not going in the portal, and Kayshon Boutte coming back. What does that say? What does it mean?
It's awesome. I mean, we talked walking out of the Florida State game about Kayshon Boutte leaving the team early to go prepare for the draft, like week 6, week 7 type of scenario. Oh, I'm just going to go prepare for the draft. It's not going to work out. And you have to give him so much credit. We'll get to the SEC championship game, and I'm sure we'll come back to this as people get in and are getting excited in the chat. But he could have easily put on the happy face, bought in for this year, and said, okay, like my stats aren't great. I lost some value. Let me just go get to the league, get in a camp, and let's go make some real money. And you got to give him an ass ton of credit, like huge shout out for him wanting to come back and wanting to lead. Like in the chat, there's a reason Kayshon announced early and fast because he wants others to follow. 100%, 100%. He's become a leader. A guy that I was worried about being in this locker room is now a guy that I couldn't be happier is in the locker room and
we need ass tats. We need ass tats. We need booty tats.
Booty tats. Matching booty tats.
I'm down.
I'm in. Why not?
Do we go with number everywhere. 1 or 7?
Well, I mean, we'll have to have a contest for who gets 1 and who gets 7.
We'll talk about it. One of our loyal listeners, Boom Tap, is saying Makai may have only been commenting on Boutte's announcement. That's a possibility, but dude, do not rain on this parade right now.
Yeah,
right now,
we're just gonna vibe tonight.
Right now, we're all in that Makai Gardner's coming back, and guess what, dude? I'm just gonna throw it out there. Roy's coming back, dude. Roy is coming back now.
Reported first buy.
BJ's probably not, but in my head, he is. So
that would be nuts.
That would be kind of wild. That would be unprecedented. Boutte coming back because it's Boutte. Like that's what's so surprising is a kid that the whole season it was like, is he going to buy in? Has he bought in? Oh my God, his draft stock has dropped now. He's only had 2 touchdowns. This kid's probably pissed. You know, he flirted with Bama in the offseason, yada, yada, yada. And this is the motherfucker that's going to turn this around and be like, nope, I'm coming back again, boys. And we're getting a ring. That just shows you that this whole graduate champions is more than just a rah, let's get the kids on board. It's a fucking belief. These kids believe that, and they're ready to continue it. It's not just the foundation being laid. This is what it is forever. Like as long as Brian Kelly's here, this is what it is.
This is alignment. This is what we kind of made fun of Brian Kelly saying endless times in his introductory press conference. Kyle in the chat, just going to put this out there with Boutte coming back, which wide receivers y'all see hitting the portal. We're going to get to that. Let's table the portal because, I mean, there's a quarterback debate that's probably going to happen before we even get to the portal talk again. But I don't know, man.
Throwing in the Molotov cocktail is just absolutely out of nowhere.
Like, what I wouldn't give to either been able to hear on that headset or been able to read the text messages between Brian Kelly and Mike Denbrock on the plane ride home. They're sitting like a row apart, and the text is coming in. I thought you fucking said he sucked. Like there had to be like.
You've had this extra pair of gloves the entire time.
This whole time you've had. Yeah,
we're in the Rockies.
We're in the SEC. It's just, it's one of those. There's 2 scenarios. There's the scenario that Brian Kelly's like, wow, this is like not what we've ever seen in practice. This is a flash in the pan, and this kid's gonna make me look like an idiot here. Or he's sitting there thinking, man, what if we could have done this the whole time?
Yeah, good for Nuss to go in and just fucking fire it off. And I think this is a good way to go into the SEC championship performance and talk about that game a little bit. Because that's obviously like people forget that the defense played like shit the past like 3 games besides Perkins against Arkansas. But other than that, the defense kind of ran out of gas and got run over. And the only bright talking point coming out of the SEC championship was the fight that these kids just put through the entire game, even when it was a clear like blowout in the second quarter after some incredible misfortune that we're going to get into.
Tennessee flashbacks.
But the fact that like we just kept slinging it and scoring and putting pressure on them was incredible to watch, and that just shows the resolve of this team. But it obviously opened up a can of worms about what it's about to happen, probably for the next year. The conversation about Jaden Daniels, Garrett Nussmeier, and of course Walker Howard. That's going to be the conversation. I doubt all three of those guys are with us after the spring. Maybe one goes pro. I don't know. We're going to get into all the scenarios here, I am sure. But let's go into the SEC championship game. LSU comes in massive underdogs.
Big underdogs, didn't go right early, and poor Polian. Like what a season for Pol. I don't know. We'll get to there. But like you said, it was as we expect from this team just does not quit. It doesn't lay down. It played to the last whistle. I think it would have been awesome for them to be able to score that last touchdown to make it look a little better. But like, I can't tell you how pleased. And obviously I wish the defense maybe got a few more stops there and was able to step up. But I can't tell you how pleased I am, like leaving that SEC championship game of like, it didn't feel Georgia should be better. The foundation at Georgia has been set for 3 years, 4 years. I don't know how long Kirby's been there
for 7 years.
7 years, right? But you know, let's say they were the same old Georgia for a few years there, and he got it going with the foundation and top recruiting classes end over end. And we lined up against him and gave him a good fight. You know, outside of the couple fluky plays, outside of being able to understand that it's a live ball, which hand up, I kind of didn't even know that was a live ball.
It's like and a punt.
And then to have the Besh like off the helmet, just completely unlucky pick. But it's like, it wasn't LSU didn't walk in there and was completely outclassed. And that was
and I think that's Brian Kelly and this staff being able to communicate perspective to college kids is phenomenal, because if you look at where they came this season, how far they came, and then what they did against Georgia, and I guarantee you the discussion was look at how far we have come in this year. Look at where Georgia is right now. And I'm sure he was very transparent. They are the standard of college football right now. It's not Alabama. It's Georgia. It's what Kirby has been able to do at Georgia. And it's built on a foundation that he established 7 years ago, multiple top recruiting classes over and over again, and continuity. Stetson Bennett, like, whether he's a dork, I hate the fuck, but at the end of the day, the kid, it's continuity. It's people that have been with the program for a long time, and it's leadership, and it's putting those 5 stars together to believe in the process. And this is the result. You got back-to-back 13-win seasons, whatever it is. Like right now, they're reaching that peak Georgia, and it takes time. But then you look at year one LSU and the fact that they were able to grind with them. I mean, dude, if you just look at a snippet of the first quarter, it's a very even football game. If anything, it was lopsided yardage-wise. You're moving the ball in this team. You had some bad breaks. You couldn't overcome those bad breaks. You can't play from behind with the depth that we have, with the limitations that we have. But to be able to communicate that to these kids and have a guy like Kayshon Boutte a few days later be like, you're right, we're very close.
We aren't that far off.
Right. We're very close. And people like me are going to be the reason. It's the only way that we take that next step is if we have a couple guys, part of that foundation, come back and lead by example and really put forth an effort in our final seasons. Incredible.
Well, and show some of the guys. And, you know, I'm sure Harold Perkins will be a 3-year player. It's very possible. There's guys on this team that will be 3-year and maybe even those fringe. And when you look and say, well, Kayshon came back and like, look what it did for him. And it's building that foundation. We used to bitch and complain constantly because all Alabama did was win a national championship and a top 15 pick was like, you know what, let's run it back. And you're just like, what the fuck? We go 8-4 and everyone leaves. It's a mass exodus. It's Texas A&M, but for the NFL. And it starts with one domino. And it starts with a guy like Kayshon Boutte as a potential first-round draft pick.
But a lot of it, exactly. but it took getting to the SEC championship and playing a team like Georgia to get that perspective of this is where we need to be. It's not beating Alabama in the middle of the season. Like, that's amazing. It's a great stepping stone. It is an incredible achievement, but you got to win the championships. You got to win when it matters. You got to get past every single week. You can't take a week off against Texas A&M just because A&M sucks. Because just because A&M sucks doesn't mean that they can't snipe you at the end of the year.
Mhm.
You got to learn from that. And then you got to regroup and go play the SEC championship against the best team in the country and keep fighting to the end. Like, it was just, it's a bad situation to lose those last 2 games, but they have clearly molded it into a positive that the kids are understanding.
And, Kayshon Boutte's not going to come back unless he legitimately thinks that this team can win a national championship. And he just went up against the team that's most likely going to win the national championship. And outside of a couple plays, they were right there with them and could have had a game with, quote unquote, your starting quarterback, who's been a dynamic playmaker for you, out for most of it. But yeah, to go back to the Texas A&M thing, something I wanted to talk about when the Texas A&M game happened, it's like, as much as those losses suck, like while it's happening, sometimes it's going to be maybe next year when this team is 10-1, 11-1 rolling into that game and Texas A&M sucks. It's like, well, we remember what happened and we're going to rub their face in it. Sometimes those losses shit. Joe Burrow after the 18 overtime game, it's like we could have easily went into that A&M game and looked sloppy and everything. And it was like, no, we're going to pound these dudes out. So it's like sometimes these losses could turn into good things for us later on.
You look at what Georgia did to us. You don't think
Going
that
for 2.
50 yeah, you don't think that 50 burger had anything to do with us just dominating them 2 years in a row and then on that SEC championship in 19? Like, that was definitely a payback type of game for Kirby and this Georgia
And
team.
we'll run it back back.
Dude, they had to get the gats, the cigars, like they held on to that for 3 years. Like,
yeah, it's like, guys, that's a decade ago for us. We've moved on.
Yeah. So it's unbelievable though that, to see Georgia's rise, and it's very respectable. Like, that is a dominant football team that is put together perfectly. And they're their own unique style. Like, they're a tight end dominant team. And that's very impressive to see be this dominant from top to bottom. And then replacing like basically their entire defense. Rotating.
They're going to be the trendsetter. Like, this is going to kind of set the trend for that switch of college football. Obviously, teams will still run the spread, and obviously that'll work. But there's just going to be that shift to what Georgia's doing. Like, you can still push the ball down the field. You can also completely control the line of scrimmage and be able to disguise run looks as passing. There's just a lot you can do with it. And it's just, I don't know. I feel like it's somewhat hard to game plan for Georgia when every other team you see is doing a lot of different things.
Oh, sure. You got an outside backer or a safety or a cornerback coming up to set the edge against a 6'7" tight end like Washington. Can't take his knees out, so you got to go high, and you're going to break your back now. It's like it's a mismatch. Like, what are you supposed to do?
As I watched their offense, I was like, I feel like this is what Brian Kelly's trying to do.
Yes.
We had very similar style of offenses, except we don't have those tight ends yet, and we don't have that center yet, and we don't have some of those guys. But very similar play calling, I guess, and formations is what
Look, I think obviously a lot of coaches want to control the line of scrimmage, but I think for teams like Georgia and for what Brian Kelly said and do, like, it's a big thing, like dominating the line of scrimmage over everything. We'll figure out, like, being able to dominate the line of scrimmage makes average receivers look good. And if you can do that with good Louisiana talent, all of a sudden you have more first-round draft picks. Like, it's a line of scrimmage game. Always has been. I think it always will be.
And you look at that line of scrimmage, and it's led by a New Orleans cat, Van Pran at center. It's like we have our
Imagine
cycles
us
of
having
O-line. Yeah, like imagine a homegrown offensive line with Van Pran, Campbell. You got Emory Jones in there, and then you got a Lance Hurd coming in. Like, Louisiana produces linemen. It's just not consistent. But every couple years, when you got that big dog coming out, you got to grab them. You got to own the trenches. You got to own the Mason Smiths on the defensive side of the ball, the Roys, but you got to do it every single year. And that's what George has been able to do is every single year reproduce on that defensive line and the offensive line. You look at, they subbed an entire unit of defensive linemen multiple times throughout the game, and they were all dominant, like 5-star kids as backups. That's what you have to build.
Even Gary pointed it out. He's like, yeah, you don't see as much subbing on LSU. And it's like, yeah, that's what happens. Like,
We had no one to sub, brother.
Whenever we're playing this game in 2 years, it's gonna look a lot different.
Yeah. We have 3 down linemen to rotate literally all year. We've had 3.
Yeah, and that's, I think that's some of the issues is our defensive line depth, especially after Mason Smith left. And then, I mean, you get a transfer portal guy like Mekhi Wingo. Thank God that kid stepped up. Yeah, that kid stepped up. I think he was second team All SEC. I mean, like, great job for him to step up and be a dominant force. But you need multiple layers of that.
Next year, once you get a couple guys, you're probably going to have to dip into the transfer portal for a guy or two, and hopefully Mason Smith can end up being a healthy player for you all season.
Healthy horse.
All of a sudden, you're stacking depth and you're stacking quality depth, and then you're rotating guys in who maybe aren't ready. Kind of like how Savion Jones is getting some rotation there. It's like you start having those guys in at D tackle where it's like, yeah, we're comfortable for a series, for a third quarter or second quarter series. Like we feel confident with this guy. That's just not currently what the roster is.
Yeah, and then you can rotate in a Quincy Wiggins, who a couple years ago may have been like your best defensive end that you have to play as a freshman, and you see him roll out after a couple seasons. Now it's part of a developmental process. But that's the message that he had to relay. It's like, guys, we won 9 games. We competed for an SEC championship. Rah, rah, rah. That's great. This year was not about that. This year was about letting you guys see what it takes to get there. Now let's build this roster. Now let's get some continuity, like I've been talking about. Let's
get Dion in there and tell everyone to leave in the portal because we're bringing better players in.
Hawkhead.
Let's do that.
That cat, man. That'll be interesting there. He'll definitely
imagine the fucking outrage. And look, I know Dion's catching some heat, but imagine the fucking outrage if it was like LSU gold video, and Brian Kelly's up there like, I'm bringing in better players than you guys. Like, I will make you quit this team, and I'm bringing in a tight end. It's just like, I don't know, Brian Kelly would have been destroyed.
And I was talking about it earlier, like, who are the coaches that are going to deal with this? And then I started thinking about it. He's bringing the Jackson State squad, like his whole staff is going with him, and he's bringing most of the team. But then I started thinking, like, watching all these ESPN commentators and everybody being like, oh, they're going to love it up there in Boulder. They've got the Coors Brewery. They got the Red Rock Amphitheater. I'm just like, do you know like what the Jackson State team is? Like, these kids don't give a shit about the Coors Brewery.
It's the complete opposite. Jackson is the complete opposite of Boulder.
Like, they're going there for the money. It has nothing to do with the beauty of Colorado. And they're going to have to think about that. Like, yeah, good for Dion. I don't see Colorado being like a national champion just because he's going to buy a bunch of players.
I
don't know about national champion. I don't know. It'll be interesting.
Colorado's a good school. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it's a great school. Now, can they build a championship program? Can they build a playoff contender? We'll see. But the second they do, the guy's going to be at Florida State. Like, Dion's not building Colorado just to be like a power. He's building it so he can be Dion, the guy that built something. It's not about the school. It's about Dion. That's very.
It's the video game model that Coach Doug's did. He's just going around trying to, and then good for him. Like, maybe it'll work. Maybe he'll bring him to a bowl. I don't know.
It feels like a Netflix series that we'd be like, God, this is not even believable. Like, the former player comes in and he's like, and this is your quarterback. He happens to be my son. It's like all this stuff.
At one point, it's going to break.
Ridiculous. It's
going to break. It's not going to be sustainable. It's going to be entertaining, and I think that's primetime. That's who he is. He's primetime entertainment. It's going to be an entertaining watch. But as far as like a sustained program, I don't really see that happening. But
Back to the championship game. I think we're close to closing it out. I feel like there's still some Nussmeier talk to be, but
Oh, it's a lot. But how about, dude?
I
Okay, let's
oh
talk about Polian one more
yeah,
second
thank you.
here.
Yes, I was
Okay,
gonna say,
how do
you know,
11 of those motherfuckers, not a single one, is told that that's a live ball? Not one.
no,
And I know
not
a
a
lot of
single
people are like,
one.
oh, even Georgia didn't know either. They're waving them off. No, they're waving them off because if they touch that ball, we got the ball in the 10-yard line.
And it's
Like,
live.
right. So they knew what the hell they were doing. That's why the cat waited until like the ball was almost dead. It was like, oh my God, like these kids are running to the sideline. I'm about to score a touchdown here. It started against Florida State and it ended against Georgia. We never, ever had any semblance of any type of productivity from special teams. And I wanted to say this, like everybody's saying, like, LSU had a chance at the playoffs. This team, they blew it against A&M, yada, yada, yada. LSU this year was not a playoff team. They had a lot of bounces. Not really. They had no bounces go their way. They had a lot of effort and they scrapped by a lot of teams that probably could have beat them. But at the end of the day, a championship team is not one that you got to clench your asshole every time you're returning a punt.
There's a punt in the air.
Like that's not a championship football team. We had so many holes, so many deficits that I feel like are going to be fixed this offseason. But this was a perfect
Citrus Bowl's a perfect spot for us.
Yeah. It just makes sense. Like the season in a nutshell just makes sense, and it's a success.
I like to give some optics suggestions, like Brian Kelly not wearing the gloves and things like that. We got to get rid of the fucking swirly yellow hat that looks like it's sold at Walmart. Like it's yes.
I don't think like what is he wearing that for? Who is
it's
looking
one of those
checking with him?
It's one of those bullshit Venables things where it's like, well, I'm gonna have a blue Oklahoma shirt so my defensive guys know that they can find me on the sidelines. And it's like no one wants to look for your goofy fucking hat. Like you go away. You go away when it's fucking special teams. Like you're assistant to the regional manager, and that's where it fucking stops. Like I understand we're not going to fire him, and like we're probably not even going to change his title, but like hire someone to run it and have him be like special teams coordinator, air quotes.
And listen, man, I get that he's this recruiting guru apparently, and he's like the first guy that Kelly brought over. But like, are we really discounting that like Frank Wilson could probably do the same gig and be perfectly
He's an evaluation mastermind.
You know who it makes you appreciate a lot more was when we had Bradley Dale
Pivito.
Greg McMahon, dude.
Yeah, no, Greg McMahon too. But even guys like Pivito, it's like, wow, those were the glory days.
Special teams matters, dude. You look at all these teams that are in the playoffs right now.
We lost 2.5 games because of special teams. It's not like we just had some fumbles. Like Florida State game lost because of special teams. Tennessee game, I don't know, let's call it 0.75 of a loss because of special teams. Like, we just couldn't even get started in that game. And then this game, throw another 0.75. If
but
LSU can score a touchdown, get points, all of a sudden you have the lead. Georgia hadn't done shit yet. They barely had the ball. You've dominated the game. And I don't know, where are we at?
Momentum is a crazy thing in college football. It always, I mean, we all know, degenerate bettors, momentum's crazy. The minute there's one of those swings, you feel your bank account dwindling away. You know that it's an uphill battle now because the big mojo is on the other sideline. And if you give the number one team in the country momentum off of some bonehead special team play like that, it's over. You don't need to give them anything like that.
Fellas, you've been playing Nunmaker all year. They win a title.
Nunmaker. So the bounce off of Jack Bash's head, I thought it hit the ground. I did not see the helmet.
Brutal.
And like from that first angle, it bounces. I'm just like, okay, it hit the ground. Why are we not blowing the whistle? Like, are we that fucking like, what are you talking about? And then they turn the other camera angle. I'm just like, of course it bounced off Jack Bash's head right into this dude's hands. What can you
Saints
say?
Interception. Yeah, look, I discussed this with you guys on Saturday. I just didn't feel like paying for YouTube TV anymore, so I canceled it and did like the free trial of Hulu, whatever. And like Hulu's pretty legit, but the delay is real. Like the delay is there. And so I just happened to either check Twitter or got a text. Vinny was in the stadium giving us boots on the ground updates he said it was like 90% Georgia in there.
Oh, for sure.
But
Big Ven.
So I saw like the tweet happen, and then I was like, oh great, and I looked up and I still couldn't believe it. Like I knew a ridiculous, like insane, unfortunate play was going to happen, and it was still just like a stunning turn of events.
When I had Hulu TV, I got in the habit of I put my phone down while I watch the games upside down, and then when it's a commercial break, I catch up on the group me, just because I was
Can't.
always like a little bit behind. Because I figured like every time the group me thing popped up, I'm just like,
You
either
knew.
something really bad happened or something really good happened. And
When you get
usually
8
lately it's been really
notifications in
bad.
30 seconds and you're still
Yeah.
in a Taco Bell commercial, you're like, fuck.
Fuck, something bad happened. But now with YouTube TV, it's like up to speed, and I'm the one kind of like hitting the group me early, but I've been in that habit of like I'm waiting till a commercial
know.
before I get caught up with everybody.
No, YouTube TV is surprisingly quick with it. It wasn't like that last year. There was still that delay.
It was interesting. So I had YouTube TV on last night watching Sunday Night Football, and then I used the Caesars app to bet, and they had the live game on Caesars.
There's nothing worse.
And Caesars is or the betting apps, if they have a live broadcast, it's an instant broadcast, which was insane to me. Which is why the odds changed.
You'll get a line change. You're like, well, someone scores in the next 3 plays.
Yeah. But when you're able to actually watch what it's doing, that was crazy.
Yeah.
I had the Green Bay over, and then I had the Giants plus 2.5, and they tied.
Sweat of sweat.
It went into overtime. I was like, fuck, it's over.
The under was 40.5.
Yeah, that sucks. I was not going to touch that, but I did. I rode with Stu Feiner. I rode with the Giants plus 2.5, and it ended on that tie. Everybody was freaking out. I was so happy. Like everybody was pissed. I'm like, that's
favorite number, favorite position.
Okay, SEC championship. Jaden Daniels could not move because he was injured. Tough kid, and all season long we've talked about it. I did not anticipate Jaden Daniels lasting this long against SEC defenses, and he has scrapped it together. And kudos to him for making it all the way to halftime of the SEC championship before he pulled a Mettenberger and had to crawl off. Like that dude.
Yeah, that last possession, it was like, okay, guys, like this, it's enough. Yeah,
yeah, just like Caleb Williams. It's like, Caleb, enough. Like you got the Heisman, maybe. Let's go Duggan. But let's get out of here, dude. You can't move. But with that being said, because Jaden couldn't move, he had to scan the field. He had to pull the trigger. And hello, Kayshon Boutte from last season all of a sudden makes an appearance. It's like, whoa, you can actually hit him on stride and actually have him break away and make a play here. So it was nice to see Jaden kind of rip it across the middle. That was refreshing to see. It was telling after halftime. They pan over to the sideline, and you've got Jaden Daniels kind of giving everybody a high five, giving them hugs, but then hugging like the training staff and hugging coaches. And that's when it was like, okay, he's not coming back in.
I thought for sure he was coming back in until he got to like the random dude in the hoodie. He was like, yeah, fuck yeah, I love you. And I was like, oh, he's done.
Yes. So Nussmeier comes in and completely is like, hey, I'm for sale. This is what I am. This is what I can do. This is who I am. And I'm letting this shit rip.
It's the gif of Always Sunny in Philadelphia where he's just like wild card bitches and he like jumps out the trunk of the car. Like he just came in, and like credit to him. Like, yeah, he's a gunslinger and all that stuff, but like he knew there was no one coming to get him. Like, would they have put in Walker Howard if he just kept throwing picks? Maybe, but like he was in just a full on like no lose situation, and good for him. He stepped up. You know, I'm sure there's a couple passes he wished he had back, but there was a
rapist
notice. There was a rapist wit to him out there. Mike hit the group me with he's out there playing with a rapist wit, which obviously a Dumb and Dumber quote. I didn't have my phone on me. I'm literally like stirring mac and cheese for my kid, like watching the game, like trying to get shit done. And I see it on my Apple Watch and I just die laughing. What an incredible time. And then I think he threw a pick like right after. Like I think it was like it was like an even better, like 2 minutes later. Yeah. But
he's dangerous, man. Like that's what you get with Nussmeier.
What I was going to say is there was a noticeable difference, like a live arm, a zip to the ball. The safeties weren't getting to it in time.
You're like, where's this offense? What offense is this?
Taking receivers' hands with them with the catch. Like he was out there ripping.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know I know the Nuss haters, because there's a now, like, for some reason with LSU, you got to pick one. You can't be objective about it. Like
No, no, no.
you can't be like, yeah, Jaden's really good and he's done really well for us. And if he keeps progressing, like, he's going to be great next year. But Nuss really did have a great game. Like, he threw the ball all over the place. Awesome to see. Like, LSU fans can't have that. Like,
Yeah,
you got
I almost said it's very black and white, but then I refrained from saying
to
that.
can't do that. Can't do that either.
So credit to me for not saying that
No,
is
great
what I
job,
was getting
dude.
at.
I listen. I'm
was
the one
really
that
good.
throws out rapist wit, so I would have been the one to accidentally say black and white. But yeah, it's you got to pick a side apparently, and that's what sucks, dude. But the people that are like anti-Nuss are like, well, Georgia, we were down by a lot, so that's why Georgia was
They were
just
playing soft.
they were playing soft and like they were just letting them throw it all over the yard. I don't care. It was the fact that like those throws were made. It doesn't matter who it was against or the point spread. It was the fact that like they were ripped out there and that arm strength. Like it looks like he has a little more zip on the ball than I remember even in the spring. Like he was playing with a lot of zip. The most impressive pass to me, one was the touchdown in the beginning to Neighbors. Obviously he had like the Burrow-esque, like Georgia pulling on him and he launches it. But it was the one dart across the middle where he was throwing kind of like both feet planted and he kind of did like a Baker Mayfield.
He hit Taylor, right?
He hit Taylor across the middle, like on
Yeah.
the last second, like laying back on it. Like that was beautiful. That was awesome to see. I don't care who they're playing, if it's the second string defense on Georgia, which also is like 5-star kids. Like these,
Right.
He had very enough approach to some of the passing, like the ones he threw away. I was like, wow, that looked like a Tom Brady like smart throwaway immediately. Like there was no shot there.
And for the fans out there, you can acknowledge that Nussmeier threw the ball well and still think Jaden Daniels is a good quarterback. It's okay.
Well, sure.
Yeah. And
They're
to
both
piggyback on your talk about your throw, the thing I enjoyed was like a lot of it was progressions. You could see his feet, you could see his eyes going boom, 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 boom. I'm gonna hit the tight end here. Like it wasn't our first read was open every time and I just closed my eyes and heaved it up there. Should he maybe not take some of those risks with some safeties over the top and everything? Who knows? I don't know, but he looked impressive. Somebody's getting a good quarterback next year. I hope it's us.
Yeah, I mean, and Nussmeier was very, very appreciative and praiseworthy of the staff, of Brian Kelly, of the process. He talked a lot after the game about how that we're just getting started. This is all part of laying the foundation for the future.
Coaches talk.
It was coaches talk, but it didn't sound like a kid that was like, I should have been the guy from the beginning. And, this
always
is what
knew I had this.
This is what they missed out on. And, like, I'm ready
My dad
to roll.
coaches for the Cowboys.
Yeah. Like it kind of sounded like a guy that's bought into the program. That's, hey,
Trust the process.
If it is my turn, I'm ready to roll. And this is what you're going to get from me. Walker Howard's an interesting angle here too. Like you got this cat sitting on the bench, with no threat because it was very known. It was extremely public that he wanted to take a red shirt. He wanted to learn. He wanted to grow. He wanted to be part of the program from the sideline.
Came in with a hand injury.
Yeah, I want to take my time and not get rushed into this. And I think a lot of that had to do with why we went out. We needed another quarterback. We needed Jaden Daniels this season. We had to piece together an offensive line with freshmen and transfers. We needed a guy that can move outside of the pocket. And Jaden Daniels did that. He accomplished greatness for us here. Like he far exceeded my expectations as a transfer quarterback from Arizona State. He did a great job.
He showed flashes of being really good, and he showed flashes of something that that LSU fans feel like we've watched a ton is not being able to move the ball and not being able to throw for first downs. We saw it all, and you have to assume that year 2 in a system, more comfortable with everyone, knows his coaches, everything. There would be improvement. So the question is do you tell Jaden Daniels, thank you for your service, we would like to move on?
Okay, so you're the first quarterback not named Joe Burrow to beat Alabama in a decade. We would like you to not play quarterback for us. It sounds absurd, and it might be. And like that's the thing about this And this, dude, we're fans. We don't make these decisions. It doesn't fucking matter what we think.
Well, and
This is
it
the
doesn't
moment.
matter to us. Like, we want LSU to win. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter to us. If Jaden Daniels can go out and give us a national championship next year, let's fucking go. Like, all right.
If I can get the Jaden Daniels against Florida, if I can get the Jaden Daniels against Alabama, dude, honestly, he had a great game against Florida State. We just didn't help him any at all. Like,
Yeah.
Jaden Daniels pieced together a lot of good games this season. He also shit the bed a lot as well.
Well, and he also kind of like, as soon as something went bad, it was like, well, you're not getting that guy tonight. Like, you're done.
Yeah.
It's one of those, like, you had those emotional pitchers. He gives up a home run. It's like, well, we might as well take this dude out. It's over.
Exactly. But at the same time, like, who's to say he can't take that next step next season and become a dude? Like, we look at Stetson Bennett. We look at the Florida State kid who had a couple seasons. We look at Hendon Hooker. Like, there's so many examples of guys that were decent, but then over the years kept progressing and progressing and really turned it on with a good foundation and good coaching and progression. Now,
the LSU quarterback is going to be a top 8 Heisman odd going into the next season. Let that sink in.
Yeah, I mean, the politically correct answer here is, of course, you take the dude that beat Alabama, that at one point in the season was top 4 odds for the Heisman at one point in this offseason, because I actually was dumb enough to take that, and a guy with incredible feet, a guy that's going to keep getting better, a guy like Jaden Daniels. Of course, that's your quarterback, you dumbass. The fanboy that loves to see people aired out from the 4th best Heisman to potentially process. What, a couple weeks? Yeah, exactly. That's the point of how this is kind of like the irrational fanboy take.
Welcome to fans. Yeah.
I would love to see it be down to Nussmeier and Walker Howard, man, because I want to see these guys sling it across the yard. I want to see that downfield passing game. I want to see us get a dominant running game from our running backs and not just the quarterback. And I want to see people have to respect that so we can start diming people up and actually have a downfield threat. And I want to build a long-term quarterback that's going to be here for multiple seasons behind this offensive line. So
Yeah,
which side do you take? It's a good problem to have because they're all good.
Yeah, part of me wants to just sit there at that craps table and say, "Give me those dice back. Give me. I want to roll. I want to roll a Nussmeier or Walker Howard one here and see what happens. See if we make crap out." And look, there is no doubt in my mind. Who knows if we would have been playing in the SEC championship game, whatever. There's no doubt in my mind if Nussmeier started majority all of the season this year, we'd be sitting here bitching about how he takes too many mistakes. He loses us games. We need Walker Howard. Like, we just got to see just enough of him to make every fan, every Tiger Droppings Mafia member go nuts over the backup quarterback. And I'm here for it. I'm not saying I'm above it. I am not above it.
We're all about mayhem. Like, this is what brings people to creating podcasts.
We were the original Nuss guys. If we want to backtrack this a lot, like, we were technically the original Nuss guys.
Well,
I've been driving that bus for a while.
You've been driving the bus for a long time. I definitely, coming out of spring, thought that Nussmeier gave us the best chance to win. And I was tooting the horn all summer. Now, the minute it came out of camp that Jaden Daniels' legs were fucking for real, I felt like that was probably our best option to move forward. Now,
well, and I think pretty obviously early in the season with what we were dealing with on the line, that Jaden Daniels obviously did give us the best chance to win. Like, I don't think that's in question.
Yeah, no, and I think Jaden Daniels had a tremendous season. I also think, though, there was times, if it was so even during the spring, if it was so
why there was zero,
why was there no pressure on Jaden when he looked like garbage against Arkansas, when he looked like garbage against A&M? Like, why was there no, hey, let's throw in Nuss for a series? You know what I'm saying?
That's what made me think Nuss sucked. Like,
exactly.
I literally, I may have been on the pod, it may have been privately, but I was like, I think we have our answer.
Yeah,
because if not, like, you feel like at least a couple series, like for a spark or something, or it's like, hey, we love you, Jaden. And I mean, I know Daniels has been great in those late game situations, and we've marched down the field pretty much every time he's needed to, but it's like, maybe feel like we got to push the ball. Fuck, man. Nick Saban replaced his starting quarterback in the national championship game because he knew he needed this dude to throw. It's just like sometimes you just have to have the balls to make that mistake or make that decision. And I'm not saying that's the right decision.
No, absolutely. But I think there's a ceiling, and I don't know if Jaden's hit it, right? Like that, and that's what we have to think. It's like this is year 5 for Jaden. Like, how many seasons is it
How
going
many
to
do you
take
need
for people to be like, yeah, maybe like this is it. Like this is who Jaden Daniels is, and
How
he's
many
good
did
enough.
it take? How many did it take Joe Burrow?
Yeah, no, I get that, but Joe Burrow wasn't starting all those years, like it took a couple seasons for him to really get his feet
Yeah, but he
wet.
didn't have Herm Edwards as his coach,
For sure. I understand. There's a strong possibility that Jaden could take another step.
There's also the possibility that Nuss, hasn't had an opportunity under the lights, and he got under those lights, and it's one of those things where he's that gamer. So in practice, he doesn't flash like he maybe did in the game, and
he's definitely a gamer. Gamers rise to the occasion when the pressure's
that's
on.
what I'm saying. And now, and y'all said it earlier before we turned the mics on, like he screwed himself against Southern. When he did have the lights. Now those weren't as bright as the lights as we just saw.
No, it was a fourth blowout, and he tried to force shit because they were trying to run the football, and like the minute they called a passing play, he's like, "I'm getting a first down."
Yeah, I think that goes back.
Watch this.
It all goes back to the conclusion. Like you can have both; they're both good quarterbacks. I don't think Nuss had proved himself until the conversation starts now, and it's like we need to reevaluate, especially if Daniels comes back. But then I guess Nuss might leave too. So.
Yeah, and obviously I agree that it's possible that he wasn't doing it, but you would just think he was doing something in practice where they'd be like, we got to give this kid a shot. Or this second half was a fucking anomaly, and like it's like
that's yeah.
Next year Nussmeier's out there and things don't go well. It's like we are who we thought we were. I don't know. No one knows the answer to this.
No one knows. And
small sample size. That's what it comes back to.
The thing about it is Jaden needs pressure. He needs to have a little bit of fire behind him and know that this is not your job. Like it's not automatically yours. Like you saw what Nuss could do. We need a passing game. We've got a guy like Boutte coming back for a reason. I think that's kind of the elephant in the room here. Neighbors coming back. So what do you do for the spring? Are you able to hold on to Nussmeier all the way to the spring and have an open competition? Because if you don't, if it's just like, no, this is Jaden's, he's coming back, then yeah, Nuss is gone. Like I would expect him to go play at TCU or something with Jack Bash and those guys would, ride off in the sunset, whatever. But I think the best case scenario is you get those guys all bought in for the spring and you have an open competition and actually see who can prove themselves.
I'm not completely throwing out the possibility that Walker Howard steps in as the best guy if it's an open competition.
And that's the other angle. That's the other thing that's just kind of like lurking in the background. Like this dude is supposed to be legit. And
then what happens when you name him the starter?
That's a great problem to have for us. Like
chaos.
Then you got two guys. Then you need a portal guy. That means over the spring, you need to get another quarterback for depth. And then you got Ricky Collins back there too. So
it's very hard for me to wrap my head around Boutte talking with the coaching staff and then being like, all right, we're going to do exactly what we did this first year. And he's like, fuck, sold. We're going to
give you a couple reverses. We're going to put you at a toss dive here and there. Like I can't assume that's what they told Kayshon Boutte. I can't assume that like Brian Thomas was sitting in that room. Like, am I going to be the deep? Like I was reading on 3, they talked about this Missouri cat that they're looking at. Like they're looking at a big deep threat dynamic guy. It's like deep threat. Like it's like, why are we loading up on deep threats?
You can't imagine the deep threat scrolling and is like, LSU is where I need to go.
Kayshon went from like easily the top first-round draft pick, best receiver, to catching 2 touchdown passes. Like that's the quarterback I'm playing for. That offense. I'm not shitting on Jaden. I'm not shitting on any of that. I'm saying like there was a time and place for that conservative type of offense that hold on to the football, control it. We need every win we can possibly get. We can't take these risks right now, laying this foundation. But we're in a new era. We need to open. We need to see LSU at its full potential. We're going to go after kids in the portal where it's necessary. But you can't bring back what we just saw. And I think everyone is well aware of that.
LSU is going to always have too many skill position players. Your offense has to be based around getting these guys the ball and let them be athletes. And it's like, yeah, Daniels, like you said, man, he carried us with his legs some, but like being able to get guys like, you saw it. These guys will go make the plays and they will score touchdowns and they will be behind safeties and behind defenders. It's like you just have to be able to get these guys the ball, and then they'll just all keep coming.
I agree.
Speaking of quarterbacks, would now be a good time to talk about your boy, the 16-year-old Hurley.
I was about to say, I was going to bring up both of those situations because one, the DJ Uyunglele at Clemson situation, there's a lot of parallels there with Walker Howard and Nussmeier and Jaden Daniels, where you got a guy like DJ who, fingers crossed. Well, first off, last season did not perform up to expectations. Going into this year, you were waiting and waiting and waiting for him to make it happen. And you just won just enough to win the games and scrap by for Clemson, led by their defense. And DJ did enough to win the games. But sitting in the background, you got 5-star Cole Klubnik out of Texas, a kid that everybody praises as the next big thing, but we're not going to give him a shot just yet. We still are waiting for DJ to turn the corner. And I could see if Jaden does come back, it's a similar situation where we're waiting for you to turn the corner, but we've got a couple guys right behind you that we know can lay a foundation and really, really progress this team. The minute that first pass in this conference championship game, DJ took a step back, threw it right in the dirt on a swing pass. I think it was the next series. Dabo was like, "That's it. Like, we're done.
I'm done.
We can't do this." Because on the other sideline, you got Heisman hopeful Drake May with the UNC tossing it around the yard. So we need somebody that's going to compete against that. They put Klubnik in, and he fucking dimed it up. He was moving. Dimed it up, running all over the place. He's a dual threat. He's great. Like, that kid's going to be up for the Heisman next year immediately because he's from Clemson and he's very good. But it just shows you that if you wait, I don't know, dude. Like, it's a good problem to have that good teams have. You got to be careful when you decide to pull that plug, because what if they pulled that a little bit sooner? What if Clemson actually played Cole Klubnik all season? I mean, could they have been in a better position, or was this properly done where you made him learn long enough and get hungry enough that, boom, you throw him in there in the conference championship, kind of like Nuss. Boom, you throw him in there in the second quarter, and all of a sudden you're like, who the fuck is this? Like, why have you guys been hanging out with this kid on the sideline the entire season? You want to comment on that before I get to Hurley?
Yeah, I think, and it kind of goes with this, not necessarily exactly where you were going, but I thought Brian Kelly, in this press conference, they ask a lot about like transfer portal and everything, and I thought I really enjoyed his answer, because he said, it's like, we're just not open for business, blah blah blah, all that, but he said you also have to tightrope this fine line of like, you're bringing in freshmen, and it's like, you can't just keep saying, well, you got to be better, but we're not going to let you play. We're just going to keep getting juniors and seniors and 1-year guys to come in. And he's like, you have to build the foundation of like giving these young guys opportunities. It's like, you fill holes where you need to, but it's not just like open season to just get the best players. It's like, sometimes you want to play your younger guy to develop them. And it's just like another thing of just feeling so confident of where we're going to go under Brian Kelly.
Yeah, no, he's definitely, listen, before the season started, we talked about it over and over again. This season is about removing the toxic culture and replacing it with a winning culture. And we did that this season. And I think he's going to be very careful about trying to taint that culture. Like, he does not want anybody to just roll into this building and, I'm the guy, I'm Denver Harris, 5-star DB. My dad's Tack Minor. Like, of course I'm coming back to LSU, and I'm going to come
you should have seen the NIL deals I got last year.
Right. Like, man, like A&M hooked me up with this. Yeah, I ain't got that here. And I'm going to rip a vape pen before the game. Like that. We don't need that. Like, we're okay with Mekhi Gardner coming back. Like, we'll be okay because we'll replace him with Desmond Ricks, who's going to come in with a fresh set of eyes, a fresh, open belief system of like, okay, this is what it takes to win. Not that Denver Harris isn't a take. Who knows? Maybe we can fix that kid. Who knows? My point is exactly to piggyback what you said. It's not open season. Just because LSU is an attractive landing spot right now doesn't mean that everyone's getting a ticket. Like, you have to be vetted properly. That's what happened last year with all of our transfers. It wasn't just like, let's just grab everybody. It was a long, thought out, thorough process of, okay, there's Louisiana ties. These kids are hungry. This is a position of need. They're, the whole bit. And I think that's what you're going to look at in this transfer portal situation.
Kelly took the binder out. He took his binder out and checked all those boxes.
He's a guy who, like, I would actually trust the fucking contents of a binder, not someone who, like, when was the last time Ed had a book bag? Third grade, like never. Like I can't imagine he was real organized with colored tabs in his binder.
No, it was Derek's.
Well, obviously it was Derek's binder.
Speaking of Ed, did y'all hear his latest?
Yeah, Vegas, perfect.
Imagine being an athletic director and being like, I got Ed Orgeron. Or I got, what's his name? The former Washington guy, Chris Peterson. Who should I take? It's like, man, you're in dire straits. It's like, take the fucking football coach.
Yeah, Brett
not Ed Orgeron.
Earlier today, he's like, over under 15 months. If Ed gets the UNLV job, that is mugshots in the newspaper. I pick the under for sure.
What a bad spot.
Going back to Hurley, Colin Hurley is a 2024 quarterback. He reclassified. He's actually supposed to be in the 25 class, moved up to the 24 class. Very young kid. You're not going to find a more bought-in recruit. It's pretty astonishing what he put together. Really, really well-versed, written letter about how he sees the program and the progress they made in 1 year. Talks about how he's heavily recruited by Kirby Smart in Georgia. This is a kid that Todd Monken offered him with Kirby, and he respects what Georgia has done. But I'm pretty sure somewhere in that letter, he talked about how, Kirby's had his time to build that, and Brian Kelly needs his time at LSU. And you saw how far they've come in 1 year, and I can't wait to be a part of this. And it's only going to keep getting better, and we have to keep believing. It's like, this kid's 16 or 15, whatever it is, like, that's a winner. I can't wait to get this kid on squad and start throwing the ball around. That's awesome to see. But those are the type of recruits we're after. We're after kids that understand this is not just a flash in the pan. We have a good OC, so we're going to throw it around and have a great year. This is, let's do this for a long time. And it takes a lot of effort and a lot of time to do that. See, Hurley will win multiple natties here. I hope so. And I definitely think those are the type of kids you need to win national championships. I hope we can win one before he gets here, and it's just roses when he gets here, and he can continue it. I do believe Brian Kelly in this program, this staff, they're going to win a national championship within the next 3 to 4 years. I really see that.
We're building what Georgia has, and he's 100% right. I was on the Golden Boot podcast vibing with the boys earlier this week, at the end of last week, previewing the game, and it was like, we're gonna look across and see the mirror of LSU. Like, we're gonna see our future here. It's like, once we can get some recruiting classes and build the trenches like we want, like that's what we're gonna look like. Will it maybe look a little different? Sure. Are we ever gonna be winning 13 games every season, blah, blah, blah? I don't know, but like, that's where we're going, and it's getting there. And, back to Dion, it's going to look a little different than it does in this room today, but it's just going to keep getting better.
Another thing I wanted to point out about the transfer portal situation is the difference in what our kids are doing right now versus the rest of the country. They put on this huge parade about the transfer portal. They had a time clock. The clock strikes midnight and transfer portal's open. They have all this coverage of all these kids diving in from every school.
It might as well have been signing day on 247 and everything.
Exactly. And listen, I was a victim of it. I watched it the whole time. I was
locked
refreshing.
in.
I was like trying to teach this dude all kind of like really important stuff at work, and I'm just like refreshing. He's like, "What are you looking at?" I was like, "You wouldn't get it. Like I'm not even gonna waste my time." But I'm looking at it, and I'm realizing LSU's not involved in this right now at all. And I read more and more about Shea and Billy Embody was putting some stuff out there. They're taking their time doing exit interviews. They're doing surveys. They're going through with every kid. This is the benefit of staying versus going. And they're being very transparent about it. Obviously, they're going to say, "Hey man, like this is what the depth chart looks like. This is what your process would look like. Take it or leave it. This is what we can do for you." And after that is when they're going to start targeting the guys in the portal. They're in no rush to go out there and be like, "Oh, just because this Justin Flo from Oregon, top linebackers in the portal, means that we're not going to discuss with Greg Penn his future at LSU first." And just it's so refreshing to see that the kids were able to wait. And because there's plenty of guys that are on our roster that will transfer. Like that, it's just, and we need that to happen. There's a lot of kids through attrition that are just not going to cut it. That's what happens a lot. You offer kids based on potential, and it looks like it's just not going to pan out, and they need to leave. But we're not just kicking them to the curb. Like we're absolutely going through a proper process now. And I love how even the kids that are surefire transfers are respecting this new process and waiting before they just start dishing their names out there. That's an incredible amount of mutual respect from both the coach and the staff and this team.
There aren't players lining up to get out of here at first sign.
Right. It's like, fuck your exit interview. I'm out. Like, no, there's none of that. And then
will there be guys that jump into the transfer portal on this team? Like, absolutely. But it felt really good to have a quiet front and, obviously get some good news that we're not accustomed to of
honestly
guys that
it'll be beneficial to our guys that are going to jump in the portal, because we know they will. It's going to be beneficial for them to wait because they're going to be spotlighted tomorrow. Everyone's going to see their names. So it might that might be part of the plan for our coaching staff is like, look, if you're going to do it tomorrow after the other. There's 906 that entered today. 906 kids entered the portal today.
I saw a foul. Like maybe
this is on 3. I mean,
so LSU will absolutely have a group go into the portal, and that's to be expected every season. But the fact that like Kayshon Boutte, the twist of the night, comes out, like I was working out and I got a text with the tweet, and the tweet wasn't loading because the Wi-Fi was screwed up at the gym, and all I saw was Kayshon Boutte's name. I was like, "Great, is this motherfucker going to Bama or something?" Like, why am I getting a tweet about Kayshon Boutte? Because it's not about, like, of course he's going to the draft, so that's not newsworthy.
He might as well have been a senior. Like in my mind, he was a senior.
Yeah. So I refresh it, I turn off the Wi-Fi, and it was him returning, and I'm just like, this is so. Like that moment right there just defines what it's like to have a coach that understands how to run a program. You are seeing it firsthand, the difference of from one year to the next, where Kayshon Boutte last year at this time was flirting with Bama as a junior. Now is a guy that was supposed to be a surefire first-round draft pick, had his stock drop a little bit, is coming back to this team to be a leader. To change that tide of all times, of all years, where the NIL and the transfer portal is such a tempting and appealing avenue to go and so easy. You decide to stay here on this team with Brian Kelly and start that domino effect of LSU's not just the team where you go put up some stats and it's NFLSU. This is where you graduate champions. And this is how it's done. Laying the foundation and having leaders come back to lead this squad. That is tremendous. Like the fact that it's
I'll say it again for the people that joined late. It's not like we fucking torched the world on fire on offense, and he was putting up sick numbers. And it's like, yeah, I want to run that back and try to win a title. It's he had as bad a year for him, I'm sure, as he anticipated going into the season, especially considering he was healthy all year. So it's obvious, he mentioned the nutrition staff and the athletic training staff, and it's like it's obvious there is a ton of trust. Like Boutte is trusting this staff, this training staff, the nutritionist, the weight program, all the way up to Brian Kelly to improve his life greatly in 12 months.
Yeah, and obviously we have an NIL situation that's beneficial to our kids, and that's the other thing is we are recruiting current players on our roster to stick around. And make no mistake, I'm not naive enough to believe that there's no money being tossed around in Kayshon Boutte to keep him. It's not just the alignment, but that is refreshing to see that we have enough cash to be able to make him comfortable by bypassing this draft. A guy like Kayshon with kids, with a kid now, a family, has, he's definitely gonna get drafted. Now he's got the opportunity to pick where he wants to get drafted. And we are going to give him that luxury to make that decision. So that is another angle that's very comforting to see. Also, side note, y'all remember when JoJo Earl was committed to us forever and then flipped on signing day to go to Bama so he could win
Mike
championships?
remembers. Mike remembers.
Kids in the portal today. Portal. Along with like 12 other Bama dudes rolling out. Love to see it.
Look, there's going to be time for bold discussion and everything else under the sun. It feels like K-State's going to beat the shit out of Bama.
It would be
look at how many offensive tackles entered the portal for Bama today.
Yeah, they had the Brockemeyer kid. They had their starting guard. Like they had starters leave. It's
8 of them.
Like, I want to be a conspiracy theorist and be like, what do they know? But
Saban's retiring.
Yeah, that's just more of like, hey, I went to Bama. That's on my resume. How much can you give me? Like that's what those kids are probably doing. But this is different for Nick too. Like I really want to see what Nick does in this bowl game, like you talked about. Whether they beat the shit out of Bama or not, I would love to know the spread going into this game. You're not going to have.
It's not out. It's not out yet. I just checked.
Because they're going to wait for Bryce Young and everyone else to announce they're not playing in the game, if I had to guess. Boom Tap in the comments says, bowl month homework for the listeners, re-listen to Luck of the Irish pod and compare your BK year one. I'm assuming that's the pod we did whenever we
I checked that out today. It was a year ago. I think tomorrow was when we knew, so the previous pod, we knew Brian Kelly was the coach, and then it was like the week after all the shit happened.
What did we say that pod? Is he saying that
I'm sure we were.
I think that was probably the family pod.
Bullish.
What would that have been, the family pod?
I don't know. I'll listen back.
Family. I don't know. It might have been while we were on air and we figured out we got him, and we were just
I checked it. We knew we had him in November. It was the last week in November. We knew we had him, and then it was this week that he had all his press conferences and all the BS.
He got in Brian Pullian.
He says that was finding out live off the cuff pod.
Okay.
Yeah, it just, I remember so vividly walking into the studio and you and I discussing like fucking Stoops.
Trying to be happy about it. Be like, it's
rationalizing
okay.
Well,
it's okay. He could work with the defense. Miles Brennan's going to be fine.
To where we are now, it feels good. It feels good. Look, man. Hand up. I definitely thought we were turning into USC South, like Pete Carroll USC, where we were just going to start rolling after that national championship. Like hand up, but I can't. I don't know that I've ever felt more confident about like the future of where we're going. It sucks. This season felt like it just started.
It's a blink of an eye, man. Year one of the Brian Kelly era, success. It had many highs, many lows, but at the end of the day, obviously most of the fan base, if you're not behind Kelly, I mean, I don't know what to tell you, but the kids are behind him. And that's what matters. Like, this team is behind the staff and this coach. And that's refreshing to see, because at the end of the Ed tenure, it was a dumpster fire. It was, people wanted to jump ship. The coaches didn't want to coach anymore. It was bad. And us as fans, as people that talked and had podcasts, you had to look at the bright side, but there was not a ton of bright spots. It was holding on to a couple players here and there and some recruits. But now it's so much bigger. And it's the long term. It's the big picture. It's not just, oh, we signed this kid, we're gonna score a touchdown now because we've got a good offense. It's a foundation that was laid this season, and I couldn't be happier with the results.
Watching the Dion video of him talking to the team, it kind of reminded me. Well, I'm sitting there looking, and I'm like, man, it looks sparse in that room. Like, it doesn't look like a lively bunch. And it just kind of reminded me of when Brian Kelly showed up and talked to the team, and you're just like, there's no one in this room. Like, it's just, a couple guys here, walk-ons are sitting right here. And it's just like, he's not walking into a football team. And to go from that to being a decently stable program, like to what we are today, like in that quick turnaround is extremely impressive.
I love how when Brian Kelly walked in and introduced himself and was like, hey, this is going to be difficult. This is not going to be easy. There's going to be a lot of things that you're going to have to change. And most of it has nothing to do with football. And, you had guys like Dwight McLaughlin, like, I'm not going to class. Like, I'm not bringing a timesheet to,
Think he regrets not sticking around.
Yeah. There's so many of those kids. Who was the Landon Jackson? I remember talking to somebody, a family friend that apparently knew Landon Jackson. And he asked him when he transferred to Arkansas, like, what's the deal, man? He's like, oh, Kelly just kind of seemed like a dork, like seemed like he was going to be a little too stuck up and stuff. It's like,
what? And then you went to Sam Pittman,
right? It's like, guys, like the fact that there was people that literally, and I get it. It was a complete 180 in culture, so you were going to have those people, but the fact that it was so evident, the difference in the fact that guys like Baskerville have interviews where they're just like, yeah, we were a little skeptical at first, but like, it's a no-brainer. Like, this is the best thing that's ever happened to us. It's incredible.
Did you see the video of the scramble tournament that the dudes turned in a card of 46?
No.
It's hilarious. Such a good video. You need to go find. I saw it on Reddit. Do you remember
first they were talking about our team, like they were golfing?
No,
yeah.
No. I'm sorry. It just hit me, and I didn't want to.
Keyshawn Boutte shot a 46.
Nobody on this team did that.
You know the video where the dude got caught like putting weights in the fish or whatever, and everyone was like fucking steaming. So you have these like assistant pros like calling out the scores, and everyone's just buzzing about this 46, right? They're pissed, which rightfully so. It's the most sandbagging. Like, you have to be embarrassed to turn that scorecard in. 46. But it is a rowdy crowd, right? And they're like, all right, and the winner with a 46, and they call out the like the winner, right, to hand the envelope. And they pan the camera to this dude who's 65, overweight, like doesn't hit the ball more than 100 yards. And it's so fucking funny. It seems like it's fake. Like, I just am howling laughing when they pan the camera over and the dude takes the money and he's like, yeah, it's legit. Dude, it is
count
so
it,
funny.
Count it.
It's an all-time video.
Hit the flag.
I didn't want to. I wanted to make you aware of it before. I didn't know if the pod was ending, if we were talking more portal or what, but it hit me and I had to get it off my chest.
It's been since Raleigh that I golfed. I haven't golfed a single time here, and I went Sunday to the range. Felt good. Didn't have to pay for it because the dude's power went out and the network went out, and he was trying to charge my card. He's like, just come back tomorrow. I'm like, all right.
Yeah,
Anyway, I'm gonna swing by and pay him later. But dude, the fucking blister, man, like coming out of nowhere. Like, I don't know what I guess
have a glove on.
my right hand.
His right hand's bad grip.
Oh, it's a mirror. Okay.
Yeah, it was just something was off, dude. It's been too long. But with that said, what was that tournament? What was that? Just like a local?
Oh, I literally just saw it on Reddit.
Okay.
It was some sort of scramble, and I'm telling you, dude, when you see the guy that like was on the team that posted I think Rory Hovland and Scheffler could have been on this team, and I don't know they would have 46'd it out there. It's such a funny video.
I haven't been paying attention to a ton of the golf content.
No, make me up when the
is Hovland like right now or something?
Is he what?
Is he crushing it right now? He won. Okay,
it's the same tournament. He won.
Dunked an eagle
or whatever.
Okay, I've seen him a lot, like on ESPN and stuff. I'm like, I don't know if he won or.
Yeah. Wake me up when the players is back.
Speaking of golf, my round in San Diego. This is what I was texting you, Mike. We got paired up with Sharon and Norman, and I started calling them Sherman Merman. They were an 80-year-old married couple. That's who we got paired up with. Now they're both hitting it somewhat straight, probably, I don't know, 100, maybe 150 if they got a hold in one. And me and the guy I was playing with, the Oregon guy, we're hitting normal 220 to 250 drives. Yeah.
Bombs.
So we start to realize quickly that Norman can't hear worth a shit. He can't find his ball ever. So we have to like slow down, help them point out their ball as we drive by. So we're doing that the whole round. We get to hole like 14. And I pipe one finally down the middle. It's at least 260, 250. And my partner's off to the side. So we go to his ball first. We knew where mine was. And he's getting lined up to punch out. And we look back, and Norman is standing over my ball and hits my ball.
Yes, he thought he nutted one.
And I'm
you were yelling and he couldn't hear you.
And so no, I didn't even yell. I look up. I'm like, wait. I'm like, Brian. That's what I was like, Brian. Not my ball. Like, there's no way he hit for his first shot, and then that was his second one right next to mine. I was like, that's weird. So I was like, Brian, I think he hit my ball. He's like, I think so. We drive over there. I'm like, hey, I was like, I think that was my ball. He's like, I think so too. He's like, but I got you up there on the green. It was the best shot I had all day. And I'm like, but that's not how this works. And so me and Brian drive
and moved on.
And we find his ball, and I'm like 100 yards back. And I'm like, this is your ball. He's like, oh.
Just hit it.
What
that's you this hole. Is that a Spalding? Just play it out.
Dude, you had to have done something to piss him off. He knew what he was doing there.
Dude, we were being so nice.
100-yard
80
difference?
plus. Dude, they were 80 years old. Like,
hey, we played with a Betty and Edgar. We know.
Yeah. It was fun though. They were nice.
They weren't 80 though.
And then she stopped hitting after a while. She was like, all right, I'm not keeping up with these guys.
Well, that's fun. Good talk. Yeah. Good news. More portal news to come. More transfer information. More recruits. Recruiting season is upon us. Should be interesting.
Bowl season. Got a lot of bowl games. Citrus Bowl matchup.
Don't want to
Purdue.
Run down any bowl games. Wait till next week, I guess.
Wait till next week. Got to hold on to some content.
Yeah, different pod entirely.
Baseball season.
USC going from 30 minutes to the playoff to playing Tulane is just laughably great. It makes me very happy. I think Tulane's going to win.
Yeah, could be interesting there. Interesting.
I got offered tickets to the Tulane Cincinnati game. Person was like, "It's on at the same time as LSU," and I was like, "Yeah, like even if it wasn't, like I'm not going to that." And they're like, "Yeah." My husband can't give them away. I'm like, yeah, because no one fucking wants to go to that game. Everyone wants to watch the LSU game.
Oh, dude, BoomTap just talked. At least the committee got it right. We didn't even talk about the playoff picture. Yeah. The committee absolutely
kind of got it right.
They got it right. I got it right. Who did you want in?
No, I mean, I think they got the right teams in. I just think they fucked Georgia, and Georgia got the tougher draw for being the 1 seed.
Yeah, I think they got the right.
Is obviously the team everyone wanted to play, and look, TCU may be able to beat someone. I don't know. If we would have talked about this before Jaden Daniels and Nussmeier went up and kind of threw it all over Georgia, I would have said Georgia beats Ohio State by 1 million. Maybe still do think that. I'm not going to be fooled again, but
no.
Maybe they'll be able to move the ball.
I think Ohio State definitely learned some lessons against Michigan, and they're definitely going to come out with a little more fire. That'll be a good game. I think if TCU can beat any of those three, it's Michigan. So that definitely was kind of like a little layup there for those two. So.
I do love conference championship week has turned into what coaches lost recently and who can come on at halftime to plead their case.
Disgusting.
I get a joy. I do get a joy out of that of like, hey, you're obviously not one of the best two teams in their conference, but what do you think? He's like, well, you got to look if you
would we be favored?
Who's favored?
How did that conversation go? Was that Fox broadcast? Who called him? It was like, hey, Nick, we're gonna get you on at halftime for you to plead your case. Like, what was that conversation?
You would think the Big 12 network would roll out the red carpet for Rosy Cheek Day to go up and say we had one bad game, but we're the best team in the country.
Well, I think who was it? Was it Klatt? Who was somebody?
Yeah, it was Joel Klatt. Joel Klatt was the in the game caller that called it out and was like, "This is stupid." Basically,
he's like, "Yeah, I mean, it is what it is, but I guess apparently we're gonna have to stop everything here at halftime and have Nick Saban come lobby for his team. So whatever." I'm just like, yeah, dude. Fox is like the last group that you would expect to have like Nick Saban on. But
did y'all watch the whole post game of the USC Utah?
No.
Did y'all follow through when Urban finally? So it was Urban, Leinart, Reggie, but then the Utah coach
Leinart.
It's
just Game of Thrones.
What's his name?
Lord Leinart of the Shadow Realm.
Leinart.
Leonard.
Matthew
Leonard.
Leinart Fournette.
How's San Diego?
No, but when the Utah coach finally gets on there and sitting with them at the little booth in the post game.
Oh,
and Urban's first thing, he's like, yeah, your Utah team wanted to beat mine. Like, it's his first thing he said, not congratulations, coach. He's like, my 04 team was better, is basically what he said. And then Reggie and Leonard were like, coach, let him have his moment. It was pretty funny.
Urban's one of the biggest pieces of shit that's like ever been.
Kyle Whittingham,
he's on TV.
I would say is probably the most underrated coach in the country. I think he's done a hell of a job at Utah, and he's so cold, dude. He's just like cold as ice. He never really gets fiery on the sideline. Just kind of calls it, and those teams are tough. Like
he's like Kirk Ferentz of like the West Coast.
Yeah,
like he's just stable.
Yeah, for like a Pac-12 team, they play physical. I'm not saying that like they're physical in our conference, but they're a physical football team.
Speaking of Utah, one of their losses, Anthony Richardson, declares for the draft.
Yes, Anthony Richardson is, I think, ranked the 5th quarterback. Guess who's 6th? According to
Bo Nix.
No, Jaden Daniels.
I think Bo Nix is coming back.
Is he?
I think so.
Oh my god! I know they got Ty Thompson backing up, but to
circle back to LSU for a second, since you mentioned Jaden Daniels, not what do you want to happen? What do you think's going to happen with Jaden Daniels?
I think Jaden goes pro.
I think Jaden Daniels stays at LSU, and it throws a wrench, and some decisions will have to be made. But I kind of think that's what's going to happen.
I mean, dude, I mean, I know we're on the podcast and everything I say is going to be like crucified if it's not correct, not by you guys sometimes. But like, I don't think Boutte comes back if Jaden comes back.
I agree. We did say.
Are we saying? Or is Daniels? Would he make a decision before or after the bowl game?
I think Jaden's already decided.
Before we play in like a month.
I think
don't just like decide in a month. Like, yeah, you know what?
Yeah. I think Jaden Daniels is the type of guy that was looking for the fast track for the NFL. I think he wanted to get his stock up. He was a guy from Arizona State. He wanted to get away from, I don't know, the limitations there. He wanted to go to, what is this?
Ooh, chat bots.
That's a bot. Yeah, that was way too much. That was a big distraction right there. I think coming to LSU, was, oh, I got a glitch. Am I back?
Right. You're still good.
I think coming to LSU was definitely so he could display his talents, right, on a bigger stage and compete with the best. I think Jaden Daniels did that. regardless of winning a championship or not, I think Jaden accomplished what he wanted to do at LSU. And I think he accomplished what Brian Kelly wanted him to do at LSU. I think if Jaden Daniels was still at Arizona State and had a similar season, he would be going pro. So yeah. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that Jaden Daniels has announced that he's leaving to some people. And
I agree.
I think that probably was communicated to some of these wide receivers, and they think that, hey, we have a better shot at playing in a wide open offense where we're going to actually be, targeted and take some chances. I doubt it was just more of like, hey, we're going to do better.
I don't know if I said it, ended up saying it, but I mean, Malik Neighbors' comments in the post game were pretty telling.
Yeah, I was about to say, do you think that's what Besh meant by this? He was like, "Thank God."
Apparently, he had like surgery on his finger or something today.
Yeah, Besh is like always in the hospital.
Nuss threw one pass to him and broke a finger, I guess.
yeah, the one that bounced off his helmet.
He favrayed him.
He really did. Besh has had shin splints. He had a back injury. He hurt his finger now.
And it's been a rough go for our boy JB.
Besh had a rough season.
He took some shots in the game too.
But thinking about moving forward, guys, not even guys like Jack Besh, but just like everyone who have been in this for a year and knows what it takes, like doing the off-season workout programs and keeping their bodies in shape and everything. Like I think even next year we're going to see a bigger step in our conditioning and physicality and all of those things, because you're going to have a whole off-season of these dudes. I'm sure guys had bought in early, but I'm sure there were some guys dogging it for the runs in the afternoon and stuff. And hopefully that is kind of shifted, and you have this big group of SWAT leaders and guys like Boutte who are gonna be like, I didn't come back here for us to like half-ass it. Like we're going hard.
Pick the shit up.
And that's what you have to get excited. I don't know. I don't know how I could be more excited coming off of 2 losses. Like
we talk about for 1 second before we end this, how ridiculous Mason Taylor is going to be as a junior in 2 seasons?
What's the dude's name for
shoot it into my vein.
For Notre Dame? I can't come up with his name, but there you go. That tight end. Yeah. The dude now, Trace Mayer, that's his name.
Oh yeah, or Bowers from Georgia.
Bowers. I mean, dude's gonna be sick. Dude put on 20 pounds this year.
Yeah, he's a baby. He's like 17. He's like a young kid.
Yeah,
he's got a gene pool.
Yeah, he's the guy off the top who's going to have some like spring pictures where we're like, oh, fuck, like it's going to blow up Tiger droppings. Like he's going to be one of those dudes that puts on like 10 more pounds of muscle and like shreds.
And he's sneaky athletic, dude. Like from looking at him, you would think you would think he's like robotic, but he's not at all. He's he's loose.
Pretty fluid athlete, especially considering, like you just say, put on 20 pounds in a year at 18. Like, it's like, it's easy to say, like, oh man, that's cool, all this stuff. But it's like, imagine putting that on like your frame as just like out of high school. It's like, all of a sudden you're walking around 20 pounds heavier, just built completely different.
I wonder if Danny Lewis is going to have fun transferring to UL. That'd be interesting to see. At least he got grinded on. No, but they were talking about how he's looking at it.
Yeah,
he might go to Tulane.
Yeah, good for him.
Yeah, I hope
he got his little 100K.
Grand. Yeah, I hope that 25 grand NIL money was worth it. Good luck.
Whatever it was. Yeah. Congrats, buddy. And you got butt fucked by Brian Kelly.
Whoa.
I think that's how we end it.
And it ends there. Over and out.